Alright, in this video we're going to be styling this Pinus sylvestris or Scots pine. It's a Yamadori. I believe it's been out of the mountains now for about 3 years, so it's in very good health. It's got really nice buds on it for this coming spring. And actually right now is early March, so it's a decent time to style this tree before it starts to put out new growth. So what we're going to be doing is turning this from a raw Yamadori into a nice fully styled bonsai. So there are lots of really good features and a lot of flaws in this tree, so we're going to try to show off the features and hide the flaws if possible. So we'll get into a little bit of detail about the trunk structure and about the branch structure as well. So typically when we style a Yamadori like this, we start at the base of the tree and work our way towards the top. So we want to show off the widest base with the best radial root structure, or nabari. So we've got a couple of options. This is really nice and wide right through here. You can see it's really big. Down in this area, there's some decent movement in the trunk. And then if we flip the tree completely around, maybe a little hard to see in the video, but this side as well has a really nice wide nabari to it. So if you look at it from the side, not so great. If you look at it from the opposite side, not so great. So that kind of eliminates 2 out of the 4 sides. So we're either looking at this being the front or the opposite side being the front. Now, if you want to make a really easy tree, this is probably the easiest front to go with. We cut the stuff off on the back, we pull stuff around towards the front and create a nice design. But I don't know if that's going to be the best front necessarily, because a lot of the bark structure on this side of the tree is more interesting than the other side. It's going to be a little more complicated to build the tree on this side because the branches all come forward. So it's going to be hard to sort of shorten those visually. But I think overall this is going to make maybe a better front than the opposite side. So we're going to remove a few of the unnecessary branches first to open this side up and see if this is going to be the best front or not. Okay, so we've removed a few of the unnecessary branches on the tree. Number one was this big guy back here. We also cut off this branch here as well. It's got a really nice soft branch at the base here that we could potentially use, but this particular branch was just too heavy, so we went ahead and cut that off. And then of course this branch at the bottom here was way too thick, way too long, and just had a little tuft of foliage at the end, so it's really not usable in the design. So we've removed those. Now we're going to go through and turn these branches that we cut off into gins, and then potentially cut back a few more of the longer branches. Alright, so this branch I think is too heavy right here. We're going to tilt the tree this way, so this is going to be too much up to pull down. It's going to look weird, so let's go ahead and cut this branch off. So as part of the design process with bonsai, we always have to be open to changing our opinions and our ideas as we start to build the tree. So when we initially started on the tree, I mentioned that we had 2 potential fronts, one being this side here, the other being the opposite side here. At the initial start of the tree, all of the branches were around the back side. We even removed a few more here, and this was really exposed in the front. So that seemed to be quite an obvious front, but we also said that potentially this could be a nice front here too, because The bark is quite nice. It's got a nice wide nabari. But now that we've removed the unnecessary branches on the tree, it's going to actually be a much easier tree and a better tree to build it from this particular side. So we're still sticking with one of our two options as the front of the tree. We're just using the opposite side of what I thought might be the better front, and that's because we have removed the unnecessary branches. Most of these big branches are protruding from the back of the tree now, which makes it much easier to pull around and make a very compact, small design. The issue with making this the front, with these coming straight forward towards us, in order to compact these branches, we would have to take them back and then forward again. It's a very difficult, complex process. So in order to avoid that and still build a really nice tree, we're going to stick with this particular side as the front, and we're going to be changing the angle slightly here as well, so that this section that's parallel to the ground is going to be on a slight angle upward here. We just have to find a nice balance between getting that on a nice angle and not raising the base of the tree too much where it sticks out of the soil when we repot it later. So now that we've set the angle of the tree, we're going to decide exactly where the branches are going to end up. So this tree is going to be moving to the right, so we want our first directional branch to be down here. So it's probably going to be a combination of this branch and perhaps this one here that get pulled down to create that first branch. We also need some depth back here. This branch here is going to serve that purpose. These branches here we're going to set in this area to counterbalance the lean of the tree. And then this large branch here we're going to pull up and around to create a nice apex here and some back branches as well as some balancing branches to the right lean of the tree. So the next step in this process is to bend the heavy branches. We talked about taking this branch from the rear down and towards the front to make our premier branch, but in order to bend such a heavy branch, we have to apply raffia to the branch. And the directionality of the raffia and the directionality of the wire that we use to bend that branch is very important. It's a very special technique. We're going to be covering this in more detail in our upcoming advanced course. I'm teaming up with Bonsai Empire. We're going to be putting out this course in the next month or so. But for right now, you'll be able to see the process on this particular tree. We're going to be applying the raffia, pulling it down, moving this into position, and we use this sort of as like a second skin on the bark to protect the bark from breaking and protect the branch from snapping as we bend it. So we've wired all of the branches, but we haven't set anything yet. So that's the next step in this process. Now, normally when I do detail wiring or refinement, I'll wire one branch and set it and then move on to the next one. But with the Yamadori like this, we're gonna have to add a lot of guy wires to move things into place. So it's just easier to wire everything first and then start to set stuff. So that's gonna be the next step in the process. We're gonna start with the lowest branch here, set our directional branch, and then build the structure from there. Okay, so as you can see, we've wired and set the lower branches and now we've come to the apex. It's quite long, but because this branch goes towards the rear, we can now bring this around towards the front and create a nice compact apex here, and then this lower branch is going to sit in the back here for depth.
Let me shine.
so despite the fact that we just styled this tree, it was a relatively mild styling in terms of the bends that we put into the branches, so we decided to take it out of the original pot, which had really bad soil, and put it in this wooden box here with pure pumice. What this does is it allows the oxygen to reach the roots much more easily, which is better health-wise for the tree. So we're going to keep it in this container for about 2 to 3 years, making sure to fertilize it heavily, get it back into good shape, hopefully double or triple the foliage density, and at that point we'll put it in a nice ceramic container.
You okay? It's recording.
Oscar is dangerous, yeah? Maybe open
I know,
and close.
I like
you like the
Oh, sorry.